Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, James.
And good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you are all having a great weekend or a great week, whenever it is that you are listening. Here we are again, Anne.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Another Sunday Vibes podcast. And if you are returning to listen again, thank you. We genuinely appreciate all of your support and feedback and suggestions. Everything, to be honest with you. Thank you so much. And if you are new and you haven't listened before and you haven't tuned in before, welcome and thank you for tuning in. For the next half an hour or so, Anne and I are going to have another conversation. And like I always say, we genuinely do not know specifically what we are going to discuss.
That's true.
It is. We shall see where it goes. Okay?
Okay, fine.
Intro out of the way. Are you happy to begin, Anne?
I am, yes.
Brilliant. Where would you like to start this morning?
Really, from this last week that we've had, because
Okay.
which is very rare, is that we've had a few days off this week.
Yes.
Well, had a week off. I was supposed to have a week off.
Right, yeah.
It's not turned out a week off because of many things.
Yes.
Hospital appointments, different appointments that we both had.
Yes.
It's not really been a holiday.
It's been an interesting week.
But
A genuinely interesting
It's
week.
been more interesting than if we'd gone on holiday, to be honest.
Yeah, yes.
So we decided with Jackie and ourselves that because Jackie wanted to go to the Peace Hall in Halifax.
Yes, so Jackie's one of our really good friends, isn't she?
Yes. So we decided we would drive. She wanted to go on the train at one point, but we decided in the end that we would drive there, which I'm very pleased about because it was an awful day. It was raining all the way there.
It was. So this was Monday, sorry.
Monday,
Monday
yes.
This week we drove over to Halifax.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're not, James hadn't been to the Peace Hall before, didn't really know what it was. But unfortunately, as I say, it was a really bad day.
Weather-wise, yes.
Weather-wise, yes. But still very interesting.
Absolutely, yes.
But looking at the areas as we were driving, some of the areas as we were driving are really run down, lots of them as we're going through.
Yes.
And it got me thinking about standards themselves, is how have we as people, I'm not talking about governments or anybody else now, allowed this to happen?
Right.
Because I was thinking on the way back, we did a detour because the street where I was born is still standing.
Wow. We did, didn't we?
We did, yes. In actual fact, it's only the street.
Would you like to tell everybody the street we are talking about?
The street is Bede Street.
Bede Street?
Bede Street in Bradford, Manchester.
Right.
Used to be Beach Street when I was born there.
Right,
They changed the name.
They changed the name, okay.
The interesting thing was that when I got there, there is only one side of the street, which is all the terraced houses, which was confusing for Jackie and James.
It was,
so
yes.
What are the other houses? The other houses opposite were very, very, very old semis and tiny, very tiny. And they were built after the war.
Right, okay.
Because that was the wreck. We used to play on the wreck, not realising that was the row of houses that had been bombed opposite.
Yes.
And when they went down, my mother would say, oh, they've just gone off to live somewhere else.
Right, okay.
So it was interesting to see that the houses are still standing in that one street.
It was interesting, I admit. And you're right, there are different types of houses literally next to each other.
Yes.
So the old terraced houses, there's a row of those.
Yes.
And there are some older, but newer than the terraced houses, semi-detached houses. And then there are some new housing developments, which I would imagine are still a few decades old now, just slightly round the corner. And they're all...
in the middle of industrial estates in Etihad.
Absolutely, right in the heart of a urban industrial area. It's fascinating, really. It was a really interesting walk down memory lane, and it was, as it always is, Anne, fascinating and enjoyable to hear your stories and to be able to actually physically see, for myself and for Jackie as well, I am sure, to physically see the house that you grew up in and the street that you grew up upon, and hearing you talk about your neighbours and your family and the wreck and everything else. It made it real,
It brought
now and then together.
Yes.
And we can see that which has changed and that which has stayed the same, for
Yes.
better and for worse. It really was a point of reflection.
Yes.
Really, genuinely, from my personal
And
experience.
you were interested.
Absolutely interested,
were
as
sup-
I am now,
yes.
genuinely interested.
And you were surprised, weren't you, how far out of town it was? You expected it to be closer to Manchester city centre than it was.
Yes, I mean,
Bradford.
it's not a long way
No,
out, but it's longer than I thought.
Yeah.
It's not really walking
When
distance,
you think
is
there were
it?
no cars,
It's definitely a bus
yes,
journey.
it was a bus journey.
It
Because
is a
there were
bus
no
journey.
cars at that time
No.
when I was little.
I did ask you were there horses and carts
You
that, were,
did, yes.
that were going up the street.
Yes, and there were still horses and carts then, yes.
Yeah.
Because the horses and carts were in Piccadilly Station. That's where they were all kept. Horses
Really?
and carts. Yes, at the back end of Piccadilly Station. We used to go and feed the horses
Wow.
as children. Yes. So going into town, because we didn't look at it as Manchester. We were just going into town
Right.
as children.
Yes.
But my mother would say, "Let's go into town and that was and in it we were really excited because we didn't go in very often because there was no money, but we would go into town to Piccadilly Gardens,
Right.
which was the only place we saw flowers and trees.
Wow.
So going into Piccadilly Gardens was wonderful for us. And we would sit in the gardens and just look at the flowers. And when I was working, people used to go to Piccadilly Gardens just for respite.
Yes.
So,
A really genuinely pleasant place to be.
oh, it was beautiful. It's
Yes.
beautiful. The shops were all clean. The shops were magic. All the shops at Christmas decorated the windows.
Yes.
So Christmas was magic. You had magic times.
So was this during the 1940s, 50s,
It would be
60s?
going to, then you would be going to the 49, something like that.
So the late
50,
40s into the early
after
50s.
the war, yes.
When Britain was starting
When
to
it started
build
to-
itself back up again.
Yes. So my mother would take us take me, not my brother. My brother wasn't interested, to the Cardoma Cafe, which was posh.
Ooh, the Cardoma Cafe.
Yes, because that's where you got your coffee, Cardoma coffee.
Right.
So yes, so it was, but everywhere was beautiful.
Yes.
You know, and everywhere. If you went into a cafe, the cafe itself would always have clean tables and would be set up.
Yes.
So
And you had proper service.
we did have proper service. Yeah, proper service. So, you know, waitresses
Yes.
clearing tables, and waitresses were always told if you take food out, you bring plates back.
Right.
That was
Yes.
the rule. Never come back empty-handed.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. Whereas we watched somebody, didn't we, this week,
Yes.
clearing a table, and he cleared a table and never wiped the table down.
Absolutely, yes. I think it's fair to say, generally speaking, and I'm sure everybody listening this morning will agree, at least in the most
Yes.
part, that service now is terrible. Generally speaking, whether it be hotels, cafes, restaurants, pubs, there are some exceptions, and there are still some people working in service who have been trained properly and who are genuinely attentive and genuinely take enjoyment from their work. Now, the standards are terrible, and the cleanliness and the attitude, it's really poor. And that's from a whole culture. And that includes us all. I'm not pointing the finger at any one particular person or particular role or job. I think we're all responsible for this. But I'm sure we can all recognise it, that the standards of service, how we are served, how we are treated in shops and restaurants, pubs, anywhere really, in truth, the airport, is below the standards that it used to be. People are not working harder. They are not dressing smartly. They are not being polite. They are not being kind. They do not treat you with respect. You are not seen as a valued customer. Often you're seen as an inconvenience. Everything's rushed. Things are not placed out. They are thrown out or dropped out. People do not take a care and consideration with things. It's poor. It is poor. And it only highlights to me when you're talking about the past, people think we've progressed so far. And in some ways, maybe we have. But we have to look at, I suggest, where we are regressing. And I do feel service is an area where we have regressed. And I think that links to standards. It links to our moral compass. It links to valuing the job that we do and the people that do the job, both in terms of customers and people who are involved working in service. And it's also, from a customer's perspective, how we treat people ourselves in terms of how we act. Are we being disrespectful? Are we being ungrateful? So we are all involved in it together. But I do feel culturally we're losing something here, or it's lost, and we if we're not careful, it will be lost forever. Can we bring back standards? Can we bring back genuine, a world-class customer service experience for everybody, whether it be a cafe on the corner, a local pub, a budget hotel, or the Savoy? It doesn't matter. Service is service. Standards are standards. Attitude is attitude. Manners are manners.
I think what you're saying is,
Yes.
I think what most people will hear in this day and age is the word in service.
Yes.
And somehow that's become a dirty word, to be in service. Now, when my friend and I, Pauline, started the holistic course at South Trafford,
Yes.
her life is so unbelievable. What a wonderful, wonderful life she'd had, so very interesting. And she was adopted. Pauline was adopted as a child by somebody who ran Eton. Her father was the headmaster at Eton.
Wow.
And she was adopted.
Okay.
And she lived in. She was the only girl in a boys' school. Lived in, and she was educated there.
Wow, that really is fascinating. Genuinely interesting.
It is interesting.
It really is.
Her story, it would take me 10 sessions to tell her story, to be honest.
Well, maybe for another morning then.
So what happened was, what she was telling me was that she was adopted into this family and had a wonderful life.
Yes.
And her mother, who was very posh, they would go for afternoon tea.
Yes.
Into, posh places, not places we would go for afternoon tea. So she was brought up in that way.
Okay.
And she said that one day when she was 14, she went into the local very, very posh hotel for afternoon tea.
Yes.
And the girl who was serving put the cups and saucers down, because then, it was all cups and saucers.
Yes.
And her mother, as she was walking away, she's 14, her mother shouted to this girl. That's what she shouted. Girl.
Yes.
And the girl turned round and she said, please come back. And the girl came back and she said to her, you haven't set this table correctly.
Right.
So the girl said, what have I done? She said, we have no teaspoons. We
Yes.
can't drink tea without teaspoons. Would you please go and get the teaspoons and set the table correctly?
Yes.
And when the girl went away, Pauline said to her mum, why did you speak to her like that? You spoke to her like she's a servant.
Okay.
And her mother said, she is a servant. And she said, I think that's awful for you to say that. So she said, why is it awful? That's her job. She's in service.
Yes.
And what a wonderful position to be in service of other people. You're in service. She's in service of all these people here, and she can be doing a wonderful job and giving them all pleasure.
Absolutely.
So what is wrong with that?
In that context, nothing is wrong with it in that context. And by the retelling of your story, it wasn't without manners. It wasn't without please and thank you. It's because it's quite abrupt and on the nose, and maybe every child can be embarrassed by their mother or father, particularly when they speak out in public in any context.
I was embarrassed by mine a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, me too. So I feel that plays its part. But you're right in the broad point you're making. I'm sure everybody will agree. I think we've forgotten that. I also think it's worth reminding ourselves that whether it be the police force or the fire brigade or the paramedics, doctors, nurses, those mighty consultants.
They're all in service.
Absolutely. The MP.
Yes.
The MPs, your local MP, your local councillors, even Sir Keir Starmer.
Yes.
They are public servants.
Yes.
That is their role. And if you work in public service, it is your role and primary purpose to serve the greater good of our collective public, our society, which for the record does exist and most definitely is not dead.
Yes.
We are alive, community is alive, and the spirit of togetherness is on the rise. And our attitude is not to take advantage of that, I suggest, and certainly not to be ungrateful for it. And I do not mean this in any condescending or elitist way for any of us to look upon anybody else as beneath anybody, because we're not beneath or below anybody. But standards are what we're upkeeping here, I suggest. Not a job role or title, not a particular income level. Those things are important in different ways, but they're not the most important, and they're certainly not what I'm referring to here. What's important and what is to be upheld is the standard.
Yes.
The standard is what is important. So we treat each other with respect, and we treat each other with the highest of respect, whether it be the king or whether it be somebody in service in a cafe or restaurant. The respect must be there on both sides for a collective network of people, the human being, the human family, to be able to bring the best out of each other. This, I feel, is what has been never fully realised and has actually regressed and gone backwards. And we all have the opportunity, I suggest, to remember this, and if we so choose, to move this forward and to treat each other how we ourselves would to treat each other as we ourselves would like to be treated. To do unto another as you would have done unto you. Would you like to be treated with respect? If you were working in a particular role, would you like to treat them with respect if that was you? If the shoe was on the other foot, how would you like to be treated? I feel in every juncture in life and every choice we make and every word we utter, we would do well to remember this. We would do well to recall this in every moment, knowing full well that we cannot, that at times we will be remiss, at times that we will fall short. However, in intention and in reminding ourselves and in the forgiveness of each moment that we can bring ourselves back to this, we can develop a sense of support, of empathy, of compassion, but also an expectation of standards. Not an elitist expectation, but an expectation of basic human dignity.
I think that's
and to bring
the
that to the
secret.
forth with strength and power and glory and might, because that's who the human being is. All of you listening, everybody is that glory.
I think that the secret is of what you've just said is that we should have expectations. How can
Yes,
a world
not an
change?
elitism.
I'm not talking about
That's
that.
what I'm just clarifying my point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We should all have expectations. We should expect to be treated politely. We should expect somebody to be concerned about somebody else. We should expect a table to be cleared when we go into a restaurant because we are paying for that service.
Yes.
It's not a free service. We are paying for a service. And I think sometimes we have to remember that we should command standards
Absolutely.
in this country. And we used to command standards in this country.
I agree
It was
fully.
a country, where the roads were swept. Every week the roads were swept. Where the drains, somebody came and did the drains every couple of weeks.
On the bus, Anne, was there a bus conductor?
Always a bus conductor.
And on the train platform, was
Yes.
there a platform conductor? I'm stumbling over my words this morning. Tongue twisted. On the train platform, there was the conductor.
On the train itself as well.
Absolutely, yes.
And what does it say? Conductor.
Yes.
And as my mother used to say to the conductors on the bus, if they weren't helping somebody, could you please give me your job description, young man?
In my mind's eye, not linked to that, to the train analogy story, is the fat controller.
Yeah.
with James and Thomas pulling into the station. And then the fat controller puts up his arm and speaks to them. Thomas, boop, boop, as he goes past James. And Bertie's round the corner. That's my best Ringo Starr impersonation.
Right.
He was the voice for
Was he
Thomas
the
the
voice?
Tank Engine.
Oh,
I used
right.
to love Thomas the Tank Engine when I was small.
But that
a small
was
boy.
teaching children manners as well.
Absolutely.
The children's programmes taught manners.
Yes.
And I think that's as well as slid, hasn't it? We children are watching actions, but they're not watching anything that's teaching them morals and standards these days.
I don't think so. I think there may be some books, some television programmes, some stories that are still told. But you're right, I feel on the whole, in all areas of life, both for children and for adults, morality is sliding and at times is absent. To clarify and maybe round up our point we are making together about standards in service, I also feel there should be expectations from the service point of view in terms of the employee, the person in work.
Yes.
We should not accept being spoken to rudely.
No.
Nor abuse, nor violence.
No.
There are too many people that are abusing systems here, abusing police, abusing paramedics, abusing doctors, abusing nurses, abusing systems of financial help, systems of support networks, community networks. There are too many people that are abusing the system, that are abusing people.
Yes.
So that it goes both ways here.
It always goes
the
both
standards that we are talking about is not to demand from a receiving point of view.
That's equally as bad.
Absolutely. It's to demand and command that which we would expect for ourselves, to treat each other how we ourselves would like to be treated. When we meet somebody who is older than us and maybe more vulnerable in certain situations, how would we like our mother to be treated? How would we like our grandmother to be treated? How would we like our grandfather to be treated? When we're coming across children in certain situations, how would we like our children to be treated? Genuinely, how would we like to treat and look after each other? Now, there are going to be differences upon this. There are going to be nuanced perspectives. We're going to have differing opinions, of course. But in the basic guiding principles of morality, of goodness, of faith, of honesty, of integrity, of decency, of goodness, that which direction we are heading in, we can all agree, I am sure, we can find commonality, we can share a common ground, we can inhabit a common place, and we can walk a shared path, a path that has room for everybody, but it does not negate on the absolute that it is good and that we will accept nothing else.
I think an example is that while we were away and we went into many cafes to have coffees and teas because we were in a city that was very neglected, which was sad, and it's always sad to see, but neglected from the very basics of cleaning the streets and all the way up to services. But we were in a cafe where we had a meal.
Yes.
3 of us had a meal. And when we sat down for this meal, it was cold. And I mean cold. I don't mean just warm.
The food was cold. My food was cold,
The food was cold. So I said, I'm taking it back. One of us ate the meal cold. Hers was cold as well. But one of us ate it.
That's you, Jackie.
Yeah. 2 of us.
Yes.
Jackie was hungry.
Yes.
2 of us. So I took 2 meals back. And I said to the lady, this is just an example. So I said to the lady, the meals are very cold. So she got the manageress, and the manageress came up, and she said to me, our meals are very hot. So I said, well, I'm sorry, they're not very hot. If you have a thermometer, you can try, but your meals should not be this cold. It's not safe to have them this cold. She looked through the bill that I had, and she said to me, this is an example of what people do and she said to me, I'm only giving you the money back for these 2 meals. So I said, I haven't asked you for any other money back. So she said, well, I'm not giving you the money back for the other meal and the drinks you've had. So I said, I only want the money for these 2 meals. But you see, people are going back with a couple of meals or 1 meal and asking for the whole bill to be paid for. And that again is equally as bad as me having the cold meal.
It's
To take
It's
advantage of
taking
somebody.
advantage, and it's
Yes.
manipulating a situation at the expense of somebody else, or at the expense
Yes.
of something else.
Which made this lady very wary of me as well, because I'm asking, and she automatically took it for granted that I wanted the whole
Yes.
of the bill paid for, and I didn't. I wouldn't take that because it was for just the 2 meals.
Yes.
So and again, looking at, as I say, quickly looking at the table, when somebody hasn't cleared a table, there's nothing stopping us saying to whoever's on the staff there, with a smile, with a nice smile, would you please you clear the table for me? Because all people do is they clear it from their table and put it onto another table. So there's another table that then you can't sit down. So we are all responsible in some ways. We can very politely say, could you please come and clear the table for us? Because that's their job. And if there isn't enough staff, if we all start doing it, if there isn't enough staff, they're going to have to start employing staff.
Absolutely.
So there's a nice way of doing things and there's an awful way of doing things. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you. I feel for things to change, there has to be a strong way of doing things. People, us, you, listening, anybody, we have to be definite. We don't have to be rude. And we certainly don't have to be aggressive in any way.
No.
But we have to be definite. And like you just said, if expectations are not met reasonably in terms of that which we would expect for ourselves, that which in our own conscience, to our own understanding, is not right and true, then we do not give our time, energy and money to it. We do not support it any longer. How many people are accepting less, complaining about how it should be more, and then week on week this pattern continues, that everybody's in a pattern of complaining about the way things are, refusing about facing it, and neglecting their responsibility, our responsibility, to set the tone, to change the attitude, and to start the conversation. And we can do that this morning. We all have the opportunity, collectively this morning, to reflect upon what we are discussing about, to bring it forth into our lives, and to remember the axiom, the golden rule,
Yes.
to do unto others that we would have done unto ourselves.
Yes.
And I feel that that is applicable in all areas of life, and the wisdom of such truth speaks for itself. And we all understand what it means, even though we would potentially describe it differently and in exactly how it applies to our lives. We all feel what it means. So I give the instruction again. I speak to the hearts of everybody, for myself first, for you and for everybody listening, that we have the opportunity to treat each other as that which we are, which is a divine being, a being of highest value. Everybody, no matter who they are or where they are, no matter who you are or what you look like or what you've done before, everybody is a divine being first and foremost, and is worthy of highest respect.
Standards can't change.
Yes.
Unless we go to the highest denominator.
Absolutely.
But most people nowadays go to the lowest denominator because it's too much work to make a fuss for some people. And yet we have to now start speaking our minds, speaking our truth.
True. I feel that's true. And I'm sure you listening this morning will have your own thoughts and ideas and experiences as well. But I am certain we can all find agreement, consensus in the broad points of treating each other with respect, and to look out for each other and bring goodness and integrity and decency back to our lives. And I feel that's going to be fundamental as we can rebuild and reshape and bring this world back to life.
And bring England great once more. We were Great Britain, let's be great again.
Well, that's a very political comment, Anne. Sounds like somebody else. But
I
would say this is an opportunity absolutely for the United Kingdom and for the rest of the world and for everybody. But it starts on an individual level. So we all have the opportunity to set the tone, to choose the attitude and turn that towards our lives and be that example in each other's lives. A lot to think about this morning, Anne.
An awful lot.
And it's gone very, very quickly. Wow. Okay, I think we'll have to wrap it up there, Anne.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yes, goodbye. Well, thank you for tuning in. And as always, We look forward to being with you and speaking with you again next Sunday. Have a lovely week, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.